All right, welcome to the show, everybody. It is September 13th, 2022, and today, Hillary Clinton is back skis. We're going to talk about, she went on CNN, and she answered some questions. One of them was about Donald Trump, and, you know, this kind of surprised me, because she went a little soft on old Donnie, and that was really eye-opening. I was not expecting that at all, but then again, when you think about it, there might be a little thing in the back of her mind like, well, I was kind of investigated for something similar, so maybe I shouldn't come out so strongly against him. But we'll talk about that in just a second. In fact, I'm going to lead with that. Then I have a nightmare story of a Texas pro-life woman who changed her mind, and it's because of something that she went through that nobody should have ever had to go through. So I'll give you the specifics on that. We have Charlie Kirk basically sucking off the old British Empire and making some horrific arguments in the process. I got that televangelist Kenneth Copeland, who did an hour-long special about how the lack of prayer in school is leading to shootings, school shootings. You can't make this stuff up. And then, shock, a Republican politician actually got some pretty difficult questions on Fox News. And it's the con man of all con mans. Is the jig is up for him. Is the saying the jig is up or the gig is up? Is it the jig or the gig? I don't know. I don't know. Post in the comment section if you know which one it is. And devastating story on climate change and about how we are up Schitt's Creek without a paddle, to say the least. Anyway, so without further ado, let's go ahead and get started here. Hillary Clinton goes on CNN talking to Dana Bash, and Asen says here, compare this careful answer from Clinton to the lock her up chants at Trump rally. So he's sort of giving her credit for what she says, but I don't know. I'll ask you guys. I'll give you guys my breakdown as well, of course, but I'll ask you guys, what do you think of this? Because I think, if anything, she's going too soft on him. So let's listen, and then we'll break it down.
Be treated like any other citizen, or should the DOJ take into account the potential real-world consequences of indicting a former president and potential 2024 candidate?
Let me just say, I hate that question up front. I really hate it. Because, shouldn't you think about the consequences? Shouldn't you think about what might happen after you do it? I mean, that's a recipe to never hold any popular elite accountable. Because then you can say, oh, hey, there's going to be a backlash, so we can't do it because of the backlash. No, then stop pretending like we have rule of law and like it applies to everybody. Just be open and honest and say, well, if you're elite enough, then there's no accountability whatsoever. So I think that's what frustrates me about what we just heard right there, is that there's a really nihilistic admission embedded in the question. Just the fact that we're even discussing it is kind of infuriating.
I think it's a really hard call.
See, already. Is it a hard call? Is it really? Look, we can acknowledge that, yeah, there's going to be a backlash. Yeah, there's going to be consequences to it. But also, that is sort of necessary for law and order. That's necessary to disincentivize something like this from happening in the future, or from Trump doing more crimes.
And I cannot predict what the Justice Department will do at the end of its investigation. But I do think the rule of law, holding people accountable, is central to our nation. And both as Secretary of State and as a private citizen, I have answered every question I've ever been asked. I've testified for 11 hours. I've, been involved in anything that was asked of me to try to answer any kind of issue. I think that's the way the system is supposed to work, even if you are, not sure why you're being with the spotlight on you. And therefore, I really believe that at the end of the day, no one is above the law, and no one should be escaping accountability if indeed the facts and the evidence point to them having done something that anyone else in our country would be investigated for and maybe even charged.
Okay, so the answer got better there as time went on. Yeah, if this was anybody else, they would already be behind bars. And it would be an open and shut case. There's no doubt about that. I mean, first of all, the dude's under like 7 different investigations. The fact he's the former president has protected him massively to this point. I mean, that's why the FBI and the DOJ went with kid gloves early on, where they were like, look, dude, you have some classified material, we're going to go ahead and need that back. We can't have you going around with these classified materials in your office in Mar-a-Lago where you have Michael Flynn and Ray J chilling with you. Can't do it. Like, we got to get this stuff back. And Trump lied, said he gave it all back. He didn't give it all back. And he forced their hand. He forced them to basically do the raid because he didn't comply. And that stuff was very sensitive. It was so sensitive, it was the top secret of the top secret stuff. It had to be kept in a SCIF, which is a secure room, and in a safe in the SCIF with some of the information. 48 empty folders we have there now. If this was anybody else, it'd already be over. It's done. So that point is definitely true, and it sounds like she sort of came around to like, yeah, I mean, you got to do it. You got to go after him. Okay, fair enough. But I still don't like the, oh, it's a tough call. Is it really?
So it sounds like you're saying that he should be treated like he would if he was Donald J. Trump, somebody who was a civilian, an average citizen, not a former president or potential candidate?
I do, because I mean, he's not the president, and we do have some special exceptions for someone actually in the office. So I do think that just like any American, if there is evidence, that evidence should be pursued. But I know it's not an easy call, and so I don't want to inject.
Mm-hmm. It kind of is an easy call. I mean, what more could have been done? What more could Trump have done for people to say, you know what, it's an easy call? Like, that's a sincere question. And at this point, we can, broaden the scope of the conversation, not just to what's going on with the classified documents, but also to every other case he's currently facing. Whether it's the one in Georgia over the find me 11,000 votes, whether it's the Save America Pact, where he shook down his own supporters to the tune of $250 million, said he was going to spend it on the rigged election to stop them from stealing it from him, and then he basically pocketed the money. Whether it's the New York case against his business for tax fraud and insurance fraud and things of that nature, what more could he have done? What more could he have done in this case with the classified documents to make people feel like, okay, you know what, too far? I mean, you guys know, the theories that are out there are fucking wild, and it's not like there's no evidence for these things, right? You're telling me you have 48 empty folders that had classified information in it? And you're also telling me that Jared Kushner took $2 billion from Saudi Arabia, and Trump took hundreds of millions of dollars from Saudi Arabia to have their events at his golf course? This isn't a payoff? There's not some sort of scheme? There's not some, hey, I'll let you get a peek at the classified information if you do X, Y, and Z? Now, that part is speculation, of course, but what is not speculation at all, even the slightest, is that he lied repeatedly to the FBI and the DOJ and said, yeah, I turned over all the documents, when he didn't do that. We know that as a matter of fact. If this was anybody else, if this was Donald Trumpton, he'd already be in prison. He'd already be locked up.
My opinion into that difficult calculation, because I don't know all the facts. And unlike people who jump to conclusions, I don't want to do that. But if the evidence...
But from what we already do know, the facts we already do know, even if we don't have the entire picture, we already know a number of laws were broken. There is no doubt about that whatsoever. So again, I don't know why the...
proves or seems to show that there are charges that should be leveled, then I think the rule of law should apply to anyone.
Okay, there you go. Look, the only thing I could think of is that Hillary knows she was accused of similar crimes. And she was. I mean, there's no way around that. She was accused of similar crimes. She, of course, was using an unsecured device, and there were many classified documents that she was emailing, and she says that that's not the case now. She's lying. And if you don't take my word for it, go back and watch James Comey when he did the announcement at the conclusion of the investigation. In that announcement, he says, look, we're not charging her, but he also lists a number of crimes. And he says there were even, I don't remember the exact number, but 10 or 20 emails with classified information that were breached because she wasn't using the proper secure networks. Now, she did not have any classified information that was the level of classified that Trump had. Trump's documents were much more secret than Hillary Clinton's. And you could even make an argument that some of the things Hillary was emailing, even though they were classified, they maybe shouldn't have been. And by the way, you do say that about Trump, too. A lot of the documents he had were classified, but maybe shouldn't have been. So I don't really care about those ones that much. I care about the ones that really should be classified, right? But he announces like, hey, here are all the facts about the case. Here's everything we learned. And oh yeah, by the way, we're not gonna indict her or go after her. And I remember thinking like, oh, wait, I'm confused. You just listed all the crimes and then said you're not going after her. What? And I remember thinking she should have been indicted. Absolutely. But maybe there's enough self-awareness there from Hillary where she realizes like, oh, if I'm the one who comes out hard and strong and aggressive, then, you know, it just opens up the hypocrisy charge. And, you know, fair, true, you know, because I mean, I got to keep it real. If she did come out and swing in at 100 miles an hour against Trump here, I would do a segment on it and I'd be like, yeah, but you also did something kind of similar. So maybe don't come out swinging at 100 miles an hour. So in a weird way, I actually totally understand what she's doing if she has the self-awareness enough to realize she did similar things and she probably should have been found guilty on them. So I get it. I'm almost talking myself into it now that she's hitting the correct tone, because if she comes out aggressive and hard on it, then it's like, oh, you're such a fucking hypocrite. But she sort of walked the line a little bit. Still said he should probably be charged, but walked the line a little bit, and maybe that actually struck the proper tone. But look, if anything, objectively speaking, I think Trump is obviously guilty. I don't think it's a tough call. I think you do have to go after him. But I also think Hillary's guilty, and she should have been found guilty as well. So, I mean, look, lock them both up. Right? Lock her up, lock him up. And again, the final point I want to make real quick is this. People are worried about, okay, but what about the precedent of, oh, you go after a president and then you open the door where any president and all presidents, they're going to, you know, target them. And it's going to be with sometimes even bogus charges. On that front, look, I'm not as concerned on that front for that precedent because, number one, I think the presidents mostly are all criminals. Like, you're signing up to do crimes. I mean, think about how many war crimes and how much corruption there is for any president. But also, like, the other precedent scares me more. The precedent of, like, we're not going to go after him because he's powerful. Because then you're saying, yeah, there is no justice. Justice is not blind. It is not equal protection under the law. If you are elite enough or if you're popular enough, we're just going to let you go. And that's a worse precedent to set. And that is a precedent, by the way, that's existed for a long time in this country. And it was recently, re-upped under the Obama administration when they said we look forward, not backwards, when it came to going after Bush and Cheney. They also said that when it came to going after the Wall Street criminals. So I wish Obama did go after Bush and Cheney. I wish he did go after the Wall Street criminals. I wish Hillary Clinton was behind bars. And now I also wish Trump is going to end up behind bars. Will it happen? I don't know. But there's a lot of evidence there that he committed crimes. And if he doesn't end up behind bars, we're at the point now where it would be a flat-out political decision for Merrick Garland, where he's too afraid of the backlash from the public. He's afraid it would rip the fabric of the country apart or whatever bullshit he convinces himself of. And so he lets Trump get away with it. That is a real distinct possibility. And that is more scary to me. And the fact that even Hillary is echoing that notion, and we know Hillary hates Trump, but the fact that she's echoing that notion of like, yeah, I mean, it's a tough call, that tells me that the resistance liberal mind virus is still in effect. And that has consequences, so let's hope it doesn't win out. Hey y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.